Hey, we're back. It is the Pull Up Trey podcast, the podcast wherein myself, Samson Folk, I co-hosted, and my friend Trey, he pulls up the namesake, the superstar.
Wow.
We've been on a hiatus, but we're back now. We're getting back into the swing of things. Everyone's getting excited about the season. Media day is soon. Training camp is soon. It's all going well. Trey, it's been like not the best month of your life. You want to update us?
So, enjoying our hiatus, enjoying the summer, quick game of pickup. And, I realized, as I'm, aging, I need to just, hang it up. So I dislocated my ankle. I think it's been 3 weeks now.
Lord,
Yeah, 6 to 8 week injury, bro.
do you think stolen valor from Esfandiar? Do you think that's a thing?
100%. Like he said, he broke his ankle when he really didn't. I don't tell people I broke my ankle. I say I dislocated it.
And also, so the thing is, for anybody who's interested at all about a minute intro of what goes on in our lives, we entered as a Brody League team. I haven't been able to play yet. I've been back in Saskatchewan for a wedding, but there was myself, Josh, Trey, and Josh and Trey got injured the first week, and injured so bad I don't even get to play with them. So I paid this absurd fee to go into this men's league that has a media day. And now I don't even get to play with my friends. And S is also in a hybrid coach player thing. He's not sure what he wants to do. Like Adrian Griffin, who just retired or stepped away from basketball. Big shout out to our friend Hoop Goose, who said he was better than Brandon Miller. I said a lot of things, Trey. Anything on that?
I've just realized I've gotten to the age where, I spoke to our good friend Lewis, and he's like, "Be a family man. The water's warm." That's what the first thing he told me. And I realized that he's right.
It's so funny because I think I view myself as mostly indestructible. I still have that young man's tenor to how I go about things. And what was it, 3 days before you dislocated your ankle? We were in that group together. Yeah. But that humbled you immediately. Now you've left the group.
You jinxed me. You're the reason why.
That's not a jinx.
You literally said, Trey, he plays basketball, he rock climbs like he's never afraid of injury. What a man.
You throw yourself at the wall with vigor. It's true. You get after it, man. But yeah, that's true. I guess only a leg and I are currently left as indestructible. Somebody who is indestructible in the minds of NBA legacy, Vince Carter and the earlier Raptors. We're going to put the jerseys on screen. We're going to put the court on screen. We have leaks, ladies and gentlemen. For many years, people have been clamoring for a Toronto jersey that says Toronto on it, because there's this Canada's team thing that obviously the branding they're aware of, but people from Toronto are like, hey, let's have a Toronto jersey. I want to rep the city. We got one, and we got a brand new black jersey with the Raptor on it. I need your thoughts, Trey.
I would say the OG purple one. That's a 10 out of 10 smash. It's something like all the entire fan base has been wanting. The black one, I need to see the official number placement to absolutely know if I like it. But at least they brought back the old Raptor logo, which I really enjoy, and it fits the whole Vince Carter theme. So I think comparatively to other teams, they smashed the other park.
I also think that there's a really good chance, there's potential that the black jersey looks awesome. Because it's because we've seen the purple jersey. We know the purple jersey looks awesome. In the leak, the purple jersey looks bad because those leaks are like dog water 3D models. They look terrible. The black one, it looks like it could be a little off. But if they get the right shade of black, number placement, whether it's red outline, purple outline, whatever it is, it could be pretty sick. And especially the Raptors have good jersey wearers. Scottie Barnes is kind of like that LeBron thing where it's you could throw any jersey on LeBron. It looks awesome. Yeah. They got to get the black jersey on Scottie Barnes. They got to see what it looks like. But I think very strong. And the court looks awesome too.
Yeah. I would say most team went pretty minimalist and can I just say god awful. Some of these jerseys legit just have the name and are
complete. The land.
and I think it was the Knicks one that just says Knicks 3 times and just like vibrant colors, just awful. So
They
like they
should have
put
got a
something.
Villanova jersey.
Oh, I would have hated my life.
That would have been so funny, man. I would have giggled. But yeah, a lot of the jerseys, there's plenty of designers, graphic designers, artists who have talked about like, and you'll see a Twitter thread on it every 3 months, but how minimalism and the lack of like depth and 3D aspects to logo design and all this kind of stuff has made everything so utterly bland. It's like how Marvel movies, because they use so much green screen stuff, they would just shoot on these bland gray landscapes all the time because it's all just like a studio. There's no location scouting really. And having that color, that artistic nature, we're bereft of it in this society, not to go too far on all this, but it's been a little disappointing. And having that triumphant Raptor coming back for
Yeah.
the Raptors, I think it kicks ass, man. Did you like the court?
Oh, the court's awesome. Like I personally have always preferred like purple. It's like synonymous with like all the great Raptor moments, especially like the origin of the Raptors. I would prefer it as their full time color. Like the red gives you like especially like chevron and the red just it gives very like cookie cutter like 2K downloadable content.
I I like red. Red is my favorite color since I was a kid, but purple was always my second favorite color. So here's the thing. The candy cane jerseys to me is the greatest jersey the Raptors have ever had. The ones they won the chip in. And I thought that before they won the chip. However, I still think purple, I agree with you, is the overall strongest color scheme they could go
Yeah,
with. And it's more unique than
I
league
agree.
over. Everyone said that the Raptors court sucked last year when the bad leaked 3D model came out. And then I got in there and I was like, this court is sick. It looks awesome. I expect this purple. That's going to bang, man. I'm so excited. I tweeted this out to get in there with my little camera, snap my little pictures. I just wonder what jersey they're going to wear with it. And I wonder, well, I guess it's the in season tournament or what? Did they change the name? There's like a
Yes, I think
brand.
it's called NBA Cup.
The NBA Cup, yes.
Yeah.
A year in. How do you feel about the NBA Cup?
I for people who don't know, in our group chat, completely divided on
Yeah.
this topic. Me and Sam probably I think are on the pro side. I think it was a smash. The whole purpose of this is to give like a sense of reasoning and like highlight players that people normally wouldn't watch, and that's exactly what happened with the Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton had the best stretch of his NBA career in that
Hmm.
tournament. He becomes a really big star. People are watching the Pacers, and now they traded for Pascal Siakam, which is probably to a detriment of us, but they're they're a much bigger name. They have more national games this year, and ideally this happens with a star every single year that pops out and shows like that they're one of the faces of the league.
I think it does such a good job, and we're kind of having a conversation that was had a year ago again, but it does such a good job of combating the rings culture thing.
Yeah,
And rings culture is kind of like the end of fandom. It erodes so much of what makes sport compelling. And I think when you look at like soccer, which is the most well developed sport in the world, as far as like how many trophies they can go after, the amount of people who play it across the world, all that kind of stuff, they allow teams to compete for several things over the course of the season. And I think it's extremely healthy because it's not just like, well, were you the best team in the world? No. Okay, loser, go home, idiot, moron. But like you can compete and win something. The Pacers, and there will be, and also like the NBA Cup thing. LeBron, part of the legacy now. He won the first one. These things will start to matter. The legacy will be attached. But I'm excited to see what the Raptors do. Maybe the Raptors could be like the fun team this year.
yeah. Would there be anything in the format that you'd want to change? I think for me, the only thing I would want the final to be in the sphere. I think that would be super awesome, super cool to see something hovering around while people are playing.
Interesting. I didn't really. I'm maybe a bad person to ask because I didn't notice that much of the external stuff during the bubble. I was
Yeah.
just like, man, I'm just seeing a court.
Yes.
They're just hooping. But I don't know if is the Sphere good for basketball? Have they played a game there?
No, I know the UFC did an event there, and it was like super cool. That stuff hovering
Oh
around. The
yeah.
fight wasn't very good.
That was cool though. We were there the first time they turned on the like they flipped the switch on that
Yeah,
thing, and then it was like, well, damn. Yeah, that was a fun trip, Vegas. Okay, so we've talked about a bunch of stuff. Let's talk about Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown just had arthroscopic knee surgery on his knee right before the season starts. Will be reevaluated in 3 weeks. You're not the credentialed media member. I'd like to get your thoughts on this one before I say anything.
There's very few times in my life where I admit that I'm wrong, and this is one of them. When they didn't trade Bruce Brown at the deadline, I was like, they have tons. I know there was somewhat reported that like there was offers for low 2024 picks. They have tons of those picks. Why would they trade for another one? And they ended up drafting 4 rookies. I'm like, this is great progress. But the I think the fact that they missed on the opportunity to shed his salary and take on bad salary, we got Davion Mitchell and a second round pick just for taking on bad salary,
And Sasha Vezenkov.
and he left. He even have to take on the salary, but they missed on an opportunity to generate more assets, and the fact that he's going to probably miss the beginning of the season, it's going to be hard for him to play well enough to probably recoup what they probably could have gotten a year ago. So right now, it looks like it's a pretty big mistake on their end.
Yeah. And like it's a pretty big mistake in that they could have gotten something and maybe they don't now. But what they could have gotten isn't of the biggest consequence. The rumor was New York was looking at a late first for 2025, presumably. I didn't see this reported, but I heard that Philadelphia called to inquire about Bruce Brown. Teams were sniffing around on it. It's just no trigger got pulled. And then they ended up doing, you know, Kelly and Ochai, and they ended up going a different way during that time. It should be interesting to see how he fits into this team. His skill level was always kind of hanging around the starting lineup because there's so many machinations of what could it be, what way is the team trying to go, and if they're playing Bruce Brown, it's like okay, they're trying to win games with their lineup. But now that that's gone, it's like kind of deciding between like what Ochai, Gradey, Davion. There's not a lot of like concrete winning there. In fact, there's zero. So it does make the starting lineup a little bit more like less interesting, and I guess it will be less poignant how it signals the intention of the team.
No, it's tough. I think this pretty much all but guarantees that Grady's probably going to start
I'd
with.
like that.
I like it in theory. I just don't think it's tangible to winning minutes. Just having.
Well, I mean, this is the interesting thing. And when we next week when we talk about like award predictions with S when he comes on, it the amount of games you win matters a lot. And also, like we saw with guys towards the end of the season, some guys didn't play certain games. Some guys sat out games that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise sat out because the Raptors were like, we would love to just tumble down the standings. And the Raptors, like, you get through the first 55, 60 games, a lot of teams make that pivot. And the Raptors, if they don't want to worry about making a pivot, they just go full out like it's Coop, plant the flag, whatever they say for Cooper Flag. They hope for something like that. Putting Gradey in the starting lineup could be a dovetailing of interests where it's like we really give this guy a lot of minutes, a lot of shot attempts. He tries a lot of stuff. He plays with good players. He's a conduit type of guy. He adds to players. He's not the huge creator. And maybe they lose some more games because the defense is going to be hot dog water.
Yeah, I think you also are testing out the theory that they basically have been drafting around is that they want two perimeter players who can orbit and weave in and out of the stuff that Scottie can do, especially as a passer. So I think you kind of get an idea of what that looks like because both Quickly and him are very good shooters off the move, and you give Grady an opportunity to play a lot and see where he sort of lands in your priorities long term.
We'll talk more about Grady next week. I'm very interested to see what year two looks like for him because he did put on muscle.
Yeah.
You can tell he looks more jacked. He looks like he's put on muscle. I wonder how that affects things.
Summer League was a mixed bag overall, but as long as he's able to finish fairly.
Summer league sucked, man. It sucked so bad. Nothing interesting happened. Nobody popped off.
not a soul. And we were like looking at this team like, man, we have the monsters. We're going to run through the summer league. This is our championship, and it just didn't happen. But I think if he's able to hold his ground defensively, at least be at bare minimum like a slight negative, it bodes really well for what he can be in the NBA.
If if he in year 2 was a slight negative, party float down like young.
Yeah.
That would be crazy. That'd be a massive W. Okay. The thing I want to talk about, the thing I find most interesting that we're going to talk about today is predicting stat lines. We'll predict awards next year with S, not next year, next week with S. And also, I will press him for info around 30th anniversary stuff because S has been the shadow GM of predicting those things. So that'll be next week if anybody wants to come see, like, I wonder when this is going to happen. We'll pressure him for some answers or some. I said this would be a segment. Educated S's. It's not so bad. That's like he's not willing to stake his like reporter claim on it. It's an educated S.
Yeah, if anyone
Source
sees
S,
S, yeah,
educated S's, all that
Source
kind of
S
stuff.
is my number one line for him.
Yeah, exactly. What do you call? Oh, folktale. That's your two
But
creations.
if when once that catches on, I just want like when you do your drop because Woj is gone now. Once you start doing your bombs, I just want a penny for each
A
drop,
penny?
just a penny.
That man, inflation. That's not going far at all. Okay, stat line predictions. I have an interesting thing here because I went and looked at the predictive stuff, and Basketball Reference is predicting a dip in points, assists, rebounds, steals, and blocks for Scottie Barnes. Dip across the board. Quite surprising, I think. Matt Moore is running the Basketball Reference. I'm sorry, Matt. Anyway, I'd like to hear your predictions because I have mine written down. We're predicting Scottie, IQ, and RJ.
You want to start with Scotty?
Yeah, go Scottie.
Scotty, I'm going to. I'm pretty bullish on the year. Like I think the 3-point shooting overall like is still somewhat of a mirage, but if he can finish still at like a 33-34 clip, that's well enough to probably make sure he's an all-star again. But what I would like to see overall this year, which I think they will prove upon, is one getting downhill. Pascal Siakam's not there. They don't have someone that really can do it in a flat sense other than RJ Barrett. So I think that will be an emphasis on the year. And then obviously once he gets obvious switches, being able to be in the post and utilize his passing and score from those positions overall. So I'm going to say 22, 9, and 7.
Do you have any prediction on like steals, blocks, etc.?
Oh, steals, I would say, I'm going to say 1.5. Blocks, I'm going to say 1.8.
Jesus Lord, that's a lot of stocks. Okay, so this is very bullish on everything. Everything is going up. Just as I guess some background after Pascal's, because you said there's some correlation to playing off of Pascal a little bit. It was the inverse reaction of what many people thought. They thought Pascal goes, Scottie starts putting up massive, huge numbers. Once Pascal was traded, Scottie put up 19, just under 8 rebounds a game, and seven assists, 1.1 steals, 1.6 blocks. It's a 20 game sample. It's not huge, indicative of some things, let's guess. Now, my prediction for Scottie's stat line 21.1 points per game, 6.4 assists, 7. Yeah, I'm doing decimals. 7.8 rebounds, 1.1 steals, 1.6 blocks, and I think he goes above 35% from three. Now, this might be a little lower on the assists than some people might have thought. It might be a little bit lower on the steals than some people might have thought. The big difference here is that IQ is going to get a lot of the ball. And I think that there's going to be a correlation between higher 3-point shooting from Scottie because he'll get to play off of IQ's creation or the team being more intentional with just running more high pick and roll with him and Scottie spotting up occasionally, and lower assist numbers for Scottie than anticipated. Still higher than last year, but lower than anticipated. There's only so many assists that go
Yeah.
around. And they
Yeah,
are an assist farm. They're scamming out there, but like there's only so many that go around. It's not like Scottie's going to be, the trigger man for coming off
yeah,
a pin down or whatever. I think, but that would be I think that's an all-star year.
yeah.
21, 6.5, almost 8, almost 3 stocks. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good. I think with like the quickly thing, do you think because last year like the pick and roll stuff was a bit of a mixed bag, and him and Scotty obviously didn't have the same sort of synergy that everyone thought they had. Do you think that they continue to double down on this? And for him, I guess they paid him $35 million, but do you think that they double down on this and he's going to operate the offense and handle a lot of the responsibilities like Dennis did far more than we did? Or does Scotty now just become the center of the universe and everyone's playing off of him?
I don't think Scottie becomes the center of the like Scottie is the center of the universe in that everything like his presence touches everything
Yeah,
and
right.
positively. A sun in a solar system is the life of a solar system, and Scotty can be that. And that is where heliocentricity comes from. However, I don't think it has to be like that just on the offensive side. It's just more so a passive sun. I don't think that exists. It's a burning star, a big one. Anyway, I think that Scotty will not have the ball so much more than he had it last year. More, I do think so. But IQ, they're sharing the role. And it will become clear throughout the season who deserves more of it and who deserves less of it. And I think that's healthy. And sure, is there a chance that IQ deserves less than Scotty and they just keep shoveling more his way and they say, IQ, we know you wanted on ball reps, we know you wanted X and Y, but look at what Scotty's doing. It makes more sense for you to be more of an off ball guy at times. Yep, that could happen. And then they could say, like, wow, we're like, it's an all star guards, you know, amount of cash, but he's playing like this. But that was kind of always the appeal, right? Right when Masai got off the
Yeah.
phone or was on the phone, I can't remember the open gym clip, but he was talking about how much he loved their fit. And we've discussed on this podcast, and myself and Lewis have written, articles breaking down why it hasn't gone as well for the IQ Scotty fit. But hypothetically, it's still there. It just hasn't manifested in points per possession stuff in any of their shared actions, which is too bad. But I think that it's going to be more meritocratic early on because that's kind of Darko's whole thing. We saw it at the start of last season. It was pretty jarring, actually.
Yeah, like no one came into the season expecting Dennis Schroeder to be near the top of the NBA in touches.
That was awesome, by the way. Like, touches gate. Like, you never know what's going to become a pressing issue for like the fan base or whoever during like Fred having divorced dad energy for 2023 was like who could have seen that coming? He was the hero the year before. It's hard to predict what like a fan base is going to cling on to, and every fan base does things differently. But yeah, anyway, touches.
But yeah, but I think heading into like the second year, just wondering is that just by proxy of Darko's philosophy and his system, or is that just a byproduct of what they think like a Scotty or the other people around them are?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like basketball is somewhat political,
Yeah,
and it's also some like they're trying to. Sometimes a team is trying to play the idea of what they want to be rather than what is currently working. They're setting themselves up for like future success. And I'm sure like they could max out Scotty's stats if they wanted to, but I don't know if maxing out Scotty's stats is the most conducive way to end up winning a chip with
yeah.
Scotty, you know? And like I could be wrong about that. Many people could be wrong about many things, but it's tough to see how that kind of shakes out. But let's move it on to Emmanuel quickly then. And I'll go first with this one. 20.6 points per game, 6.2 assists, 4.4 rebounds, 1.1 steals, and above 40% from three. So the interesting thing here, he shot 0.395% from three as a Raptor. He shot 0.395% from three as a Knick. The exact same percentage, down to the third decimal. Odd, obviously not impossible, but odd. And I think that his assists will dip a little bit from where they were because he's sharing more time with Scottie. I think his rebounds dip a little bit more from where they were because he's sharing more time with Scottie. And I think his points go up a little bit because he's sharing time with Scottie. I think IQ is going to get more 3-point attempts up this year than he ever has. I think that's going to work. And like RJ has been a real driving force. These guys are going to get to play off of him. There should be opportunities for them to score off of that. I don't think that the Raptors are going to be a good team. And I currently have them predicted as having 3 20-point per game scorers, Scottie, IQ, and RJ, which usually signals a really strong team. But you look at that bench, the bench is not good. And the defense may not be good either. But they're going to score the basketball. And particularly these three guys. That's IQ for me. I wonder where you're at.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I'm predicting 25 and 7. I don't think like he'll be able to hit some of like those gaudy like Schroeder numbers early in the season. But what I do think is that he probably like it'll be a travesty if he doesn't shoot 10 threes a game this season. I
It's
think he shoots 10 threes a game. I think some of the synergy with him and Scotty get is improved, and I think the floater returns back to Earth. I think that was one of the weirdest things heading into his Raptor tenures, that the floater, which was one of his like most dependable shots,
yeah.
became a non NBA shot for him, which is difficult for him getting downhill.
Yeah.
I think that
Famous
improves.
Louis Zatzman stat. When he came over, he had the
Yeah.
fourth best floater in the NBA, and then it fell off a cliff.
Yeah, it's our good friend Esfandiar. That's one of the things that he told us that would
We
change.
hopped on the podcast, man. The trade happened. Three Musketeers got together. The two men right here, Trevon and Samson. We said, "Hey, give RJ a fair shake. I think there's something there." And I said, "I don't know.
But I think it's gonna be a season for him. But I don't think he like flirts like with an All Star appearance just because the Raptors aren't gonna be fairly good.
Could you?
But
It would be nuts if the Raptors were like not great. And he's how do you leapfrog Scottie Barnes on this team?
yeah,
I don't see it. Scottie's so good at basketball.
it's especially the defense
He
stuff.
collects numbers. Just like he walks out there and you look, he has 5 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. The tip hasn't even gone off. You're like, how the hell does this happen? I don't know how you leapfrog
Yeah,
Scottie.
I think the biggest the numbers are gonna come for IQ just simply due to having the ball as much as he is going to. If the defense can reach what reputation was told to me, I will be over the moon because then that is a starting player that you can have on a playoff team. Right
Yeah.
now, I don't think the Raptors have. I think the Raptors have one starting player on the playoff team, and seeing how they fit around Scotty, you're going to need to have the requisite skills, and perimeter defense is a major important. I think they have two. Jakob Poeltl's for sure a starting center on the playoff team.
Yeah. Depends what team,
Yeah, for sure.
certainly. I'm going to come out on the other side. I think that RJ could be because his defensive position isn't as important as
Fair enough.
IQ's. Like IQ has really struggled in his playoff games because of that lack of overall physicality in his game, that so much of it is out of finesse, and that he does have point of attack struggles. It's like, this guy reads the floor, he's okay at digs type of off ball guard is
Yeah,
like a fun thing to talk about during the regular season. But when it's becomes about like point of attack defense, during a playoff game or during a game you want to win, it can be pretty tough. I do wonder where IQ comes on all that. But you said 10 3-point attempts per game.
yes.
He took 7 last year, and that was a career high with the Raptors. You think, like, I know Darko said 10, and I agree with you. I would
Yeah.
love to see 10. You think he jumps it to the moon like that?
He's going to have to. I think, especially like with RJ and Scotty being guys who primarily do their work getting inside. He's going to have to be that off ball force that puts up everything that comes their way. And if Scotty's going to take the lead, then I think he's going to. There's going to be more spot up opportunities for IQ.
I agree. I would be really happy if he went north of 8 a game.
Yeah,
I would be like overjoyed. So let's see. Steph Curry has hit that number north of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Steph has. He almost took in 2020, 21. He took almost 13 a game.
Jeez.
He's just throwing it out there, man. Last year it was like 12. The year before 11 and a half. And the championship season almost 12 on 44%. God, he's nuts. I just getting north of 10. You can't. I agree with you. I do that he will have opportunities next to RJ, next to Scottie. But you can't shoot 10 a game as a spot up player.
Yeah, he's after his
You gotta come from the hip, man. You gotta throw it up there. You gotta pull from 27 when they go under a screen, and you gotta do it 3 times a game. You gotta
Yeah.
have a reckless abandon. And when I looked at this, I think he shot 35, either 35 or 37% on like the big long pulls last year with the Raptors, which is encouraging because that's a great number for the big long pull. I just wonder if he's pretty for his play style, his skill set. He's kind of conservative.
Yeah,
You know what I
definitely.
mean? I don't know if he's got the juice to get to 10, although I'd be overjoyed if he did. I would love that if he did. Just go, throw it up there.
Yeah, my whole thought process is that there isn't many players on the team that are going to warrant actual shots. And that sounded
That's
horrible.
funny.
It's a fact. And he's so tenable to them working on offense. Just because, like, although Gradey's I think is going to be a great NBA shooter, he's only shown it for a certain period of time in the NBA.
Mhm.
Jakob Poeltl's a non-shooter, and although like RJ and Scottie have shown some shooting prowess or stretches of, like, I don't think they're actually going to be guarded from three. So IQ needs to shoot the ball.
That's we'll get into RJ now then too. Remains to be seen. But as you said, RJ being seen as a shooter. Just to go back, I've obsessed over this like maybe 5 or 6 times on the podcast and many times while it was happening. But RJ shot 39% from three as a Raptor, which he'd done close to that for his sophomore season as a Knick. But he had 22, 6, and 4 on 61% true shooting last season. Now, the defense is a problem because RJ wasn't a good defender
Yeah.
and he has trouble guarding at the point of attack. And IQ didn't guard well at the point of attack. And the only person who could guard well at the point of attack was Ochai, who couldn't hit, he didn't have anything offensively. But I've covered it quite extensively. RJ's ability to just score the daggum basketball.
Yep.
Nuts, man. And while I don't think he'll shoot 39% this season, I think he's going to shoot better from the free throw line than like the 62% he shot as a Raptor. My RJ, 22 points per game. 3 points. He's the leading scorer this year. 3.7 assists. So the assists come down a little bit for me.
Yes.
5.4 rebounds. I think the rebounds come down a little bit for me. For the first time in his career, my prediction, he's hitting 6 free throws per game.
Ooh,
And that increased volume and that increased efficiency from the free throw line, that's going to be a game changer. The 3-point shot, it'll have its ebbs and flows, but that guy gets to the line. That's my prediction. I think RJ Barrett is your leading scorer for the Raptors 2024-25. He's going to look mighty good in those purple threads, man.
That's like flirting with an All-Star game, especially if the Raptors, like, for half the season are at least frisky in the play-in
But
spot.
he won't because he's a guard and
Yeah,
because he's not a sexy name. And because like people don't see him as like on the up and up. It's year 5, right?
yeah,
People aren't going to think like, oh, 22, 6 and 4 from RJ, or sorry, 22, 5.5 and 3.8 or whatever. I don't think that nets him an All-Star game. I don't even think he'd get buzz unless the Raptors were amazing, because as unfair as it is, people are just kind of over some players.
yeah.
Like RJ would have to vault into that 24, 25 point per game. He'd have to have the Colin Sexton year if he wants the attention.
For me, RJ, I think is going to average 21, 5, and 4. I'm not there with him being the highest scorer in the league. I just think a couple things come back to earth. Like, one, that pop up shot that he was hitting when he got to like short short mid range was that
He
ungodly number.
he only hit 40% on those as a
Okay,
Raptor.
I could be off, but it's an ungodly amount that he was hitting. Um, and then obviously the 3 point percentage I think gets closer to like 36%, and that jumps you down a bit lower. For me personally, like I think the way he's pretty much maximized his strengths as an NBA player. Where I want to see this season is to see defensively if him and Scottie can be tenable. Just because both of them are much better against slower players, and obviously you're not going to put RJ lower in the defense. Scott, that's where Scottie thrives in, and could make an all defensive team as like the back end sweeper. His spot on the team, and which is probably why I lean like non player, is much harder unless you have the right defensive like tenability around them, which the Knicks did in those playoff runs.
So I just released that video. If anybody hasn't seen it, is listening to the podcast, you can go to Raptors Republic YouTube channel, and there's the video kind of investigating the myth about RJ Barrett only being able to go left. And so the crux of it is that RJ is actually more effective going right and goes right more often, which is pretty awesome. And it's more so about like how good he is going left that sets up the ability to counter going right. Teams have to overplay the left, etc., etc. But I've also been watching just like everything RJ. I watched all the
Yeah,
cuts. We're working on stuff to cover that as it comes out, but like his cutting was unbelievable last season. As long as RJ kind of like puts on the hard hat and keeps doing that kind of stuff, and I think he's going to come into this season a little bit like, look at what I did last year. Give me a bit more on ball stuff. It's tough. And this could be the quotable moment. It's tough for me to see RJ scoring less with the Raptors this season than they did last season. Now, I don't know about RJ and the defense, and the fit can be murky when you're trying to, lay out the track for this team to be like championship contenders. But as far as just like being a guy who plays well offensively in the NBA, it's hard not to look at RJ and, as you said, think that he has it like licked. He's kind of figured it out where
yeah,
he fits, how he gets offense in kind of the same way that a lot of those like power forwards, the Amir Johnson of it all, guys who in the in between found like 10, 12 points every game.
yeah,
RJ can get the regular creation stuff. He can get like the pinch post on a guard stuff. He'll score on those all day. He did pretty well in isolation. On cuts out of motion, he does so good. But he's also just kind of like grimy and gritty, and he works hard to support his teammates, and he found a lot of ways to score. I don't see anything changing. I think he's the leading scorer for the Raptors. But I mean, if anybody surpasses 22, I mean, hell yeah. Scottie, considering what he adds elsewhere, going north of 22 is like unbelievable. But
yeah.
yeah, we'll see.
I think RJ being the leading scorer wouldn't be like a bad thing, or like say anything about Scotty overall. I am interested to seeing some more of the post up, just because he's so physically strong and he can turn both shoulders very well. And you saw a little bit of that in the Olympics, and he was getting to the line
Yep.
consistently once he was getting those looks. So I think like if he were to take another step, another leap, that would be like him getting those like 1 or 2 post touches a game, and that turns into an extra 1 to 2 free throws an average a game.
There's kind of like this DeMar thing. He does it differently than DeMar, but as far as like the play type on one side that allows him to just gobble points, and what he gives up on the opposite side is very DeMar esque. DeMar, as far as being like a two guard or being played at the three, he was more two than RJ is played as, but RJ being able to get those mismatches in the post, that was a huge part of DeMar's arsenal. It's a huge part of RJ's, and I would like to see them go to it more often. But it also means that they're going to be lined up against guys who are able to punish them on the other side quite often too. That's the central tension of the non-superstar wing slash combo, whatever, is like, well, why is a guy like KCP so highly regarded, right? I mean, RJ is a better offensive player than KCP, but it's just that simplicity of fit on the defensive end.
Mhm.
Similar to Emmanuel, as you said, seeing how that defense kind of comes out. I wonder how, and credit to RJ for figuring out just how much of an advantage he has as a strong man out on the court and an Iron Man out on the court, how he can try and make that strength advantage work for him defensively and how the Raptors can kind of maneuver around that stuff remains very interesting to me.
Agreed. I think he there's room to take like these like micro steps like based on all the things that he's doing. If he can become like a neutral defender, it like changes the course of like how he's looked at and like his NBA career.
Yeah, yeah,
And
big time.
if he's tenable and him and Scottie can both be these two like bulldozering guys that get into the paint, that's one of the hardest things to do within a playoff series. And if you have two of the wings on your team that can do that at a really high level, you are actually building something. And the outside shooting that they're drafting around becomes even more dangerous.
I and the fact that RJ did it FIBA, he did
Yep.
it FIBA. It's tough to translate NBA to FIBA really quickly, especially if you don't shoot the hell out of the basketball. But it seems like he really has a great sense of, not to use the, everyone hates this term, we'll use again, proprioception, but really he he has a very strong understanding of using his body to get into tight spaces, feeling comfortable in them, making plays out of them, whether it's like his playmaking was way better with the Raptors than it was with the Knicks. Why? Because he spent more time in the middle of the lane. And those tight areas, he playmade out of them, whether it was to the rim or to the 3-point line. Advantage assists. I did that whole piece covering it. He's figured a lot out. It's just that defense. Hopefully it comes around. Fingers are crossed.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's the theme of this season. Who let's find out who can play defense and keep them on the team long term.
that's the Thunder thing too, right? Like the Thunder
Yeah.
just had a bunch of guys who are like, you guys are all really interesting.
Yeah.
Can you play some damn defense? Let's see what that looks like. Yeah. They might be sick this year with Chet at the 4.
I, I think they have a strong chance of coming out the West. I like would not be shocked at all. And I think on paper, like they might have the best roster on the West in general.
They This will be a big year for me to decide whether Jokic or SGA is the best player in the world. Because Jokic is losing some of those guys. They did a really, really good job of building around him. And
Yeah,
Jokic, the thing that he struggles with is the same thing that Emmanuel struggles with. Of course, they're different players. Jokic
yeah,
is one of the greatest players of all time, et cetera, et cetera. But it's just like maybe the best play on the floor is just me going volume, just going nuts every time. And Jokic is pretty patient in looking for others. And now that the Nuggets are, I think, ostensibly like not as talented a team, maybe some of the rookies or younger guys help swing that for them. But if they don't, it's like, okay, what is there a God mode for Jokic to achieve? Because Shea, like they're a fun team, they're a good team, but there's a lot of guys who are like they're not exactly sure how they get their buckets. They're not exactly sure how they assist Shea, and
yeah.
Shea just drags them over the finish line continuously. There's a route to number one player in the world being from Canada. It could happen.
To some people, that's already happened. I'm not one of them, but
James, that's his Twitter account name right now.
yeah, I, I get. You have told me that you think he's like a bit above Luca. I probably have him like a a tier underneath like the Embiids and Jokic, just because of like how naturally they create like double teams and create gravity towards them and for their teammates. It's much easier to operate and play with him than
Yeah,
SJ having to methodically dribble through five players every time.
a double team above the break is easier to recover from than
Yeah,
it is, double teaming on the block. Because it's like you're pulling a guy away from the nail
yeah.
and you're pulling a guy away from maybe like the basket. Yeah. But the thing is, Embiid can't pass a lick, which is too bad for him, man. He, we live in a very talented time. Like Embiid, as far as on volume, is putting together some of the best mid range shooting seasons ever, and he's like 7'1" and 300 pounds. That's nuts to me. I don't know. Basketball we're in a good spot. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I'm gonna keep a lot of it because I know we're gonna do like closer to the season some predictions of like what we think the team will be. All I'm gonna say is that we're gonna be frisky. I'm very excited for the season overall.
A frisky? Who
Frisky.
invented frisky for like sports teams? Is that like a Bill Simmons?
I don't know. I feel like for some reason it feels like a
Oh
more
wait,
of like
Zach Lowe?
a Zach Loaf. I don't know.
Somebody, a, a guy from like Massachusetts, a white guy from Massachusetts, brought frisky into the public vein.
I just think it's like it's very hard to be one of those like bad teams with good vibes, and I think the Raptors have the recipe to actually achieve it. They have a type of style that is like aesthetically pleasing. They're probably going to have at minimum 2 20-point scores. They might even have a third, which will then give you more hope, more light into the actual season. And when they're losing these games by 5 or 6, it's gonna be a 120, 112 type of game, and one of these dudes score 29 points.
I like that you didn't say they play fun basketball. You said it's just that I just imagine like the game's over, they lose. They're like, that was some
So,
aesthetically pleasing hoops, bro. That was sick. You know, they're like, we love split action. The Warriors, and like all the Warriors fans who just hate Steve Kerr because he won't run 80 pick and rolls a game. He's
yeah.
like, please, for the love of God, man, let Steph Curry. And he's like, we're playing some that's aesthetically pleasing
Looks
hoops right
good.
now.
Looks sexy.
I agree with you though. I like watching the Raptors when they're healthy. That losing streak last year almost broke me, man. I was just like, oh my god. But watching them when they're healthy, there's a lot of stuff they can go to. It's pretty fun. And hopefully they enjoy it while they're doing it. That's an important one. That feels like a podcast, yeah? All right. These will now be weekly. I think we're like listener, viewer. It's now we're going. We're in the swing of things.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so God bless. Thanks for tuning in. Lots more of this to come. Oh, I guess I should have said this before for algorithm stuff, but hey, put your own stat line predictions down in the comment section. Let's hear them. And also like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Okay, thank you for listening. From myself, from Trey. All right, we'll see you later, Gator. Bye bye.
Bye bye.